Hello Toy Collecting fans, Universal Toy Collector here, and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the series where I get to speak to you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, what got you into collecting in the first place, and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. So before I introduce today's guest, let's have a look at what he gets up to, what he likes in a musical montage. Okay, well, what a collection, and it was all Star Wars. You guys know I do like a bit of Star Wars. This guy needs absolutely no introduction, but heck it, I'm going to give him one anyway. He's one of the leading voices in the vintage collection community, and he's also one of the reasons I am pretty much broke. I'd like to introduce to the channel Tim from Bossk's Bounty. How you doing, my friend? All good?
Hi there, Stu. Yeah, appreciate you asking me to come on, mate. That's really good.
No, absolute pleasure. Well, thank you for accepting. So, as always, we've got 10 questions I'm going to be asking you, and take your time with them. One time's about an hour. This is all about you, mate. So here we go with the first question. What are your memories of growing up as a kid, and what toy lines were you into?
The toy lines I was into were Star Wars, Transformers, Action Force, Action Man, a little bit of He-Man, not so much. I might have had one or two Thundercats, but nothing too major. But the big three were Action Force, Star Wars, and Transformers. That's what I sort of mainly got for Christmas before getting a Commodore Amiga and sort of turning into a gamer, as it were. And yeah, the major memories really were just certain gifts that I got on certain days, like Christmas. One Christmas I got the Millennium Falcon. That was actually from my brother. I think he got it from one of his friends at school when they were sort of getting out. He's 4 years older than me, so I remember vividly getting that. I remember getting some of the original Heroes. I can't remember what card backs they're on. I would have been 6. So I think it would have been probably Empire cards, maybe before the Return of the Jedi came out, or maybe Return of the Jedi cards before the film came out. Maybe I don't know. I can't remember that far back. I remember one birthday getting the X-Wing and the 80ST, because my parents bought me the X-Wing, and my grandma, who used to live with us at the time, she got me the 80ST. So those are 2 occasions where I can vividly remember and having a memory of getting like toys when I was a kid. And awesome. After that, years after that, getting Transformers galore. I got so many Transformers, it was unbelievable.
So at the time, did you have a preference, or was you quite happy getting Star Wars Action Force, or did you have a preference one over the other sort of thing?
I don't remember getting like Action Force and Action Man as presents. I think I inherited those things from my brother. Okay. I remember having the doll-like ones, because we used to throw them down the street in those big tanks with the wheels on and everything. Really heavy-duty toys, weren't they, back then? I could never break a Action Man tank. They were just like so robust. But when I was getting things for, I remember asking for Star Wars and Transformers. I think Transformers may have came a little bit later, maybe when I was 9, 10, 11. Star Wars was probably more 6 to 9. I guess would be that time frame. So that was definitely the things I asked for Christmas was Star Wars and then Transformers.
Awesome. When did you realize that you were a toy collector? So when did you think I'm actually a toy collector now? Because a lot of people, they get to their teens, don't they, and they sort of go off and do other things and stuff like that. Did you carry on through your teens, or did you stop for a while and come back to it?
I as a child, I never counted myself as a collector. I just played with the toys. They were just that's what I did. And I certainly wasn't a collector in my early teens, because I happily sold all of my toys.
I
remember going to a car boot sale at my mum's school. She was a teacher at the time. I would have been 13, 14, and I sold all of my Star Wars, all of my Transformers, so that I could afford like a new Walkman or something to go around with when I was on my skateboard, or some new wheels some bullet wheels for my skateboard or something, that's just how it was. And it wasn't until probably when I was about I don't know, maybe when I was like 22, 23, I stumbled across a comic book shop selling loose vintage Star Wars figures in baggies.
Okay,
and thinking, wow, and I think I remember buying a Scout Trooper then, just because they were cool. So what was that? So when I was maybe 20, so what are we talking about? To 96, but probably about 96, 97, 98, I stopped partying. In the early 90s, I was partying a lot and what have you. Which is why I do the Ewok raves on my channel. And I just started picking some things up. But even then, I don't think I counted myself as a collector. I think I started collecting when eBay came out, around about the year 2000, 2001. I got myself an eBay account, and I was buying stuff from America. Brian's Toys was on there. I was buying mocks. I was buying a lot of Action Force on eBay. I had an unbelievable Action Force collection of carded mocks, and all the boxes of the with the blue, red, and white, boxes. I had
Yeah.
so much of that stuff, but again, I sold all that on. I sold it all on when
Wow.
I got married and bought a house. I just didn't need it in my life,
Yeah. I mean, you saying about the internet and eBay around about whatever time. I could never imagine a time now without having the internet or eBay.
No.
I remember how I found out what was coming out. I used to go to a comic store where I lived, and they used to have like a magazine that come out once a month, and you'd look through the magazine to the back to see what was coming out. And roughly around that time, I think it was the Power of the Force figures, like the big Butch Star Wars figures and stuff like that. And that was how we used to sort of like see what was going on in those days and what was coming out. But wow, when you sold your stuff,
sorry, I like everybody else whenever those Power of the Force 96 was it? I think
around about that time,
96, 97. I everybody else went out and bought loads of those.
Yeah,
I still didn't think of myself as a collector, but I remembered having the figures as a kid, and when those came out, I was like, wow, I've got to get loads of these. And I like everybody else, got loads of them, and on eBay as well in the early 2000s. I bought loads of them, started finding out about all the different variants and the short saber versus the long saber, and you know, getting right into it and buying a bunch of those. But again, I moved all of that on because, you know, I think a lot of people thought it was going to be worth something, didn't they? But
well,
most of that stuff
quite cheap now, can't you?
Yeah, most of that stuff is worthless, and exactly with the Power of the Force stuff as well. The Phantom Menace stuff as well.
Yeah.
We all went out there in our droves buying all that stuff, and there's so many carded versions of that because everyone kept it on card, thinking, you know, I've got the next big thing here. You know,
I mean, I don't know how you felt when Power of the Force first came out. I mean, because I think it had been practically near enough 10 years where there was no Star Wars in the shops and stuff like that, action figure wise. And I remember I personally was getting quite excited about it. Yeah, we've got these new Star Wars figures coming out and this is going to be great. And then they came out on the cards that were totally different to what we were used to back in the day. And I was thinking to myself, these figures were horrendous. They were horrendous, but we still bought them because it was Star Wars. Yeah. But then the good thing about the Power of the Force line is that they did introduce us to figures that hadn't been released previously, like all the different kind of aliens, the different kind of droids, Moff Tarkin, for example. Yeah. So I mean, that's one good thing going for the line. But
I didn't like the figures at all in the early days in the red boxes. They got a lot better when they went to the green boxes, which is the ones I remember having the most of. They're definitely the ones that I chased on eBay in the early 2000s. I was trying to get all of those with the film out and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But
I bet the prices were a bit different back then, weren't they?
Yeah, I was picking them up for like £1, £2 each, you know.
That's
those
crazy.
Power of the Force 2. But I soon realized that wasn't, I didn't really enjoy owning those figures, and I moved them on pretty quickly. And that's when I started especially with eBay, Brian's Toys, having a lot of vintage stuff. I bought a few vintage mocks from the States, and nothing like what I've got now. And that's why I like the vintage collection, because you know, the vintage collection carries on what Kenner did back in the day. You know?
Definitely. So did you pick that up straight away when they first came out? When did you first become aware of the vintage collection?
I always knew they were there, and I always looked at them in the shops, and I remember seeing them on Amazon. I remember vividly seeing the Blu-ray. I'm looking at them now, the Blu-ray ones on Amazon. But again, at that stage in my life, I was just having my first child, and I'd no money to be going around buying action figures, you know. So I missed the first run. But you know, every day I used to go shopping or whatever, and I'd see them. I'd be very sort of envious of people that was collecting them. But no, I just at that point in my life just was not in a position to spend money on anything other than, you know, nappies, basically.
So, well, that's fair enough. I mean, they don't look too good pinned to your wall, do they? But so when did you actually start collecting the vintage collection? When did you think, well, okay, now the kids are growing up, I can? So how long have you been collecting vintage collection?
Well, it was when the rumours around that they were coming back, essentially, when So what we're talking 2017, I think, was the rumors that they were
Yeah.
coming back, and Disney has bought Lucasfilm, and the Force Awakens was on the horizon, as it were. And that's when I just thought, right, I want to get back into the hobby that I let go in, like, I don't know, if I think about all the Star Wars stuff I was buying in the early 2000s, and then I let it go. I got married in 2008 and had my first child in 2010, 11. So yeah, the first vintage collection fell at the worst possible time for me in terms of collecting.
Yeah.
And we didn't opt to have childcare. Like we sort of tried to survive on my job.
Right.
My wife bringing my children up at home and helping out at a local school and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's only when she was able to work at the school properly,
Yeah.
and look after my kids, that enabled her to be around when they finished school. That enabled me to sort of free up a bit of money and start a hobby. And part of that hobby was the YouTube thing as well, and the website. I
Yeah.
just thought I'd go for it.
No, well, you certainly made up for it. So, other than Star Wars: The Vintage Collection that you collect now, what else do you collect? Is there any other toy lines that you collect?
I don't, not in the extreme that I do with the
Yeah.
vintage collection. I collect vintage Kenner again, so I've got
Yeah.
my full run of I've got the full 97 now,
Yeah.
which I was helped out with a lot along the way with some very generous subscribers sending me
Yeah.
figures and stuff. Most of them I bought myself, but a few were donated to me, which is amazing. I've got a few mint on cards again, especially with Bossk. I'm sort of trying to focus on Bossk when it comes to mint on card.
Yeah.
But in terms of away from Star Wars, I don't know. I can't say that I'm a collector of any other line, because
Yeah.
that would be taking something away from people that actually are. Do you know what I mean? Like, if you take our mate Luke from Reynolds Reviews, he loves Mask and he's well into, he's a collector of Mask. I
Yeah.
love Mask. It came a bit late for me in childhood. I had a few bits of it. I love the line. I would love to collect it. But it just comes down to space for me. I just haven't got the
Yeah.
room. If I had more room, then I would definitely branch out to Mask, Transformers. I've got a couple of Transformers again, I must admit, but nothing that you can call a collection.
Yeah. So it's just basically predominantly all Star Wars you've got then, with a few bits thrown in here and there from other lines.
Yeah. And that would change if I had more room.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because
I would
definitely buy more Transformers, for example, if I had more
Yeah.
room.
Well, I can tell you now, when my wife watches this, she'll be saying, "Why can't you be like him and just get one line and stuff like that instead of loads of other stuff?" So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain things that just don't interest me, that never will, like the Marvel. Marvel, I never had Marvel figures as a kid. I bought a few of the retro Marvel because I thought the card art was beautiful that came out in the last couple of years. But I've stopped. I bought the first couple of waves, and then after that they just started repainting the same ones, and I was just like, I can't be dealing with this. When Indiana Jones comes out, when they do that again, which I'm sure they will,
different story.
I'll be all in for that, and I'll probably be all in for the 6-inch ones as well, even that, because I'm not precious about scale for other lines. It's only Star Wars that I want to keep it to the 3 3/4 inch.
Well, I mean, I think I'm pretty much in the same thinking as you. Is that the 3 3/4 inch line is the line for Star Wars? It always has been, and it always will be. I just hope people like Hasbro realise this and stuff like that, and they continue with the line. Right. So next question: what made you start a YouTube channel, and who were your influences or people who influenced you?
Why did I do it? I think the reason I got into YouTube was through my son initially. because he used to watch like Ryan's Toys or whatever, and kids opening surprise toys, and all you ever saw there was their hands opening up things, you know.
Mm.
And I just thought I could do that, but talking about something that I like, you know.
Yeah.
But the first thing I did was start a website, because in my day job I work with websites and Google rankings and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
okay.
all quite boring stuff. But I wanted a project away from my work
Yeah.
that I could almost practice with and write stuff and create content around, about something that I was passionate about, which was Star Wars toys, basically.
Yeah.
So that's why I started the website. The YouTube was an extension of that. It came a bit later. I never was one that wanted to be on camera. I still don't like being on camera. I still feel a bit uncomfortable being on camera. Talking to you like this is quite much easier.
Yeah.
And doing live streams is much easier once you get into it and the flow starts going. But actually doing videos with me on camera, looking into the camera, I still cannot do that. I find that really, really uncomfortable doing.
Yeah.
Which is why I enjoy doing the videos where it's talking about the reveals that have just happened, and you can show images on the screen, or reviewing a figure and it's just my hands. But yeah, so it's difficult to say why I started it. It was, I guess, I don't want to blame boredom, but it was just something that I wanted to do with my spare time. Basically, I wanted to sort of improve my skills, I guess, which might help me in my job as well. And but it had to be something about that I was passionate about. You know, I couldn't just think of like start rambling on about something I didn't really know anything about. It had to be something I was passionate about and that I enjoyed, and it just went from there, really.
And it's been about 5 years, isn't it? You were saying it's been about 5 years now.
My channel has been around 5 years.
Yeah,
it's probably been more like 4 years where I actually took it seriously. Again, I don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
But do you know what I mean? It's like I actually put my heart and soul into it a bit more. Do you know what I mean? It's like the first year it was waiting for the vintage collection to come out, so I had the figures about. So it's more just sort of practicing on lighting and you know, video editors and that kind of stuff.
So I'm assuming you didn't have all the tools at that time. Then you got the tools specifically so you could do not specifically so you could do a YouTube channel. When you decided you wanted to do one, you was like, okay, well, I'm going to need this, and this, and then you just built it up from there. I'm assuming. Yeah.
So when you part of the question was like who influenced me or whatever. Like, so the channels that I used to watch, I was never a big YouTube watcher until maybe a year before I started to do it myself. So the people that I found was a guy from Australia, Malcolm, his name is.
Okay.
And I've forgotten his channel name now because he's changed it so many times. But he used to talk about the vintage collection, and he used to talk about the vehicles from the legacy collection and all the different lines. And I used to quite like watching him. He knows that I've said this to him before, that he was the guy that I used to watch. And I used to watch Retro Blasting. Retro Blasting and Toy Polloi taught me how to fix my Millennium Falcon, because I'm not great with like manual work or anything like with my hands. I'm rubbish at all of that. You know, I couldn't put a shelf up, for example. I'm just really rubbish at that sort of stuff. I've sat behind a computer all my life at work, you know. But yeah, so those guys were an influence as well. So yeah, it's just that's how it started. And in terms of like equipment and stuff, it's just like watching what people use. And you know, I still record all of my videos that are of a figure with my iPhone. I don't have I don't have some fancy camera. That for me is perfectly good. It records in 4K. I use a mic, an attachable mic, and I make sure I have 3 points of lighting. So one on the left, one on the right, one above, which I've watched a video on, you know,
Okay.
because you can learn everything on YouTube, can't you? You can use YouTube to learn how to do YouTube, you know. So, but yeah, you know, I used to have just like a blank white wall. Now I make sure I have a roll of stuff that's much better, and just upgrade things as you go, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I started watching. Well, I stumbled across your channel back in 2020 when we was in lockdown, and I was, because I heard the barge had been released, and I was seeing all this stuff about the barge and stuff like that, and I was like, oh, okay, that looks pretty cool. So I did some YouTube surfing, so to speak, and I stumbled across your channel because I think you had your 2 kids with you at the time, going through the barge and stuff like that, which I really enjoyed. And then there was only one. I saw his review of the barge, and then I thought, well, quite interesting. I like Star Wars. Let's see what else these guys have got. And then I saw your Millennium Falcon, and then it just went from there. Then I joined your Patreon, and then sitting there and seeing your Patreon numbers grow and stuff like that. So I've over this last couple of years, I think you've done phenomenally well with your channels, both your Patreon and your YouTube. So fair play to you, mate. That's pretty good stuff. So
there comes a point in it where you think this is like a bit more serious than do you know what I mean? That's like you've got people that are like almost counting on you to make some content, you know. And I think I've said to somebody else, I can't remember who it was that I said, but I always think like what my audience, now I have an audience, it's like, what do they expect? Like, so it's like always trying to come up with some new idea or something, you know, because you don't want it to just become stagnant, you know. You want to constantly improve, constantly think up new ideas, like you're doing, you know. You've done your room tours or whatever, but then you've had this idea where you're talking to other collectors, and you know, I've never done that on my channel, so you know, maybe I'll do that one day, you know.
That's the hard thing. I mean, everybody's doing something on YouTube these days, and I you know, I'm not into figure reviews because everybody's seen a figure review. The figures that I'm reviewing, well, I've left them sitting in a box for God knows how long, so they're probably old news anyway. I don't have time to sit, not saying that people do, but with my work and stuff like that, I wouldn't be sitting in front of the computer surfing all the news and stuff like that for the new releases. I'm a bit of a lazy git like that, so I leave it to people like yourself, Tim. But I don't know. I mean, I've had different ideas and stuff like that for the channel, and I always run it by a certain few people about these ideas. And I wanted to do like a live Sunday night question and answer thing where I'm on live and stuff like that. And I can remember the first one I did, I sat there and there was no one there, and I was here for a couple of minutes and thinking, well, this is shit. So I turned it off and go, well, back to the drawing board sort of thing. So I thought, well, if I do a pre-recorded where I get to ask people questions, I mean, this is the 4th episode, so I mean, hopefully it would take off and stuff like that, and I get to chat to more people, because I find it really interesting. Really interesting. Yeah. Everybody's got a different story to collect in. Anyway, it's not about me; it's about you, Tim. So,
sorry, just to expand on that. Very sorry, I know you want to go on to the question, but
no.
Just to expand on, like, since I've been doing this, like, there has been a lot of my viewers that have ended up making a channel.
Yeah.
And it's not because they want to be like this big thing on the internet. It's because they enjoy the hobby. I enjoy the hobby. The first and foremost, I enjoy the hobby. You know, just because I've got to a certain size doesn't mean I'm different to any, you know, I am just a person who collects this stuff and enjoys the hobby and likes to be positive about the hobby. Do you know what I mean? And like any of you guys,
I do.
Any of you guys that make channels, I'll always support you guys, because you're just like me. You just want to show people your collections, talk about it, be part of the community. Do you know what I mean? And that's great. I love all that.
Well, likewise. I mean, I'm practically doing this for fun, and I do have a lot of fun in chatting to people like yourself and other guys that I've chatted to. And so I've done a couple of videos where I'm just in front of the camera doing my top 10 or my countdown to my jokers and stuff like that. And that is difficult because something like this, the conversation can flow freely, whereas I'm like stop. Maybe in time I get a little bit used to that, but
well, that's why I don't do those, mate. That's why I don't sit there, because you've got to look in the lens, haven't you? It's difficult.
Exactly. Well, I spend most of the time looking at the computer because I'm making sure I'm doing the right thing and putting the right picture up. But when you obviously you started your channel, when did you become aware that you started to become a leading voice in the community?
It's difficult to think of myself as that, because what you've got to remember is once you turn your computer off and you get on with your daily life and you're not on Instagram and you're not on Twitter, you don't think you're that person at all. I don't think that. And if you're telling me that's what I am, then fine, that's great. I guess when I felt that I was part of the community, maybe not a leader of it, was back in 2020 when I felt something that I love was going down the toilet.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something about it. I didn't think what I would do would necessarily make a difference, but I really didn't care. I just wanted to do something about it. And I felt what we as a community have done, not me, we as a community did improve things. And it's still not where I and others want it to be, because like you said earlier, we think Star Wars is 3 3/4 inch, and that is what it should be. It's what we all grew up on. I still don't think it's where we want it to be, and I maybe don't think it will ever be where we want it to be, because that other line, the 6-inch line, makes them more money. And it's probably got more of a bigger fan base, not as loud a fan base, but a bigger fan base. So I think probably then, maybe when I think my channel started to get a bit of traction, because I was basically doing live streams to try and get people's attention to improve the thing that I love. So probably then. And it is also the time, also because I did that I made a lot of friends with some of the people that I respect very, very much in the community. Chris Banther Skull, John Miko,
that's it.
Jason from Yak Face, these are people that have been doing, maybe not YouTube, but doing content creating in other ways through websites and whatever for donkey's years, much longer than I have, much longer than a lot of the YouTube friends that I have. These people have been around for years. So probably then is when I felt that I was like, a voice, if you like, or I had a voice.
Well, you were part of a community who had the voice. And what I was going to say to you is that if Hasbro ever did go plastic free and remove the bubble, I think it would be a massive slap in the face to the likes of yourself, John Miko, and all the other guys that you've mentioned, because they've listened to you with regards to the thicker cardstock. They've kind of listened to you guys with respect to certain figures being released and stuff like that. So if they did go bubble free, for me, it would be a slap in the face for you guys. Plus, it would finish the vintage collection line for sure.
If they go plastic free packaging with the vintage collection, it'll kill the line almost overnight. I honestly believe that. You would get a lot of people leave the hobby very, very quickly. You'd get people like me that love the figures as well. So would continue to buy them, but not in multiples. So why would I wouldn't buy a carded version. Why? It would look ridiculous. But I would still want the figure loose, and my son would want one as well. So we'd still have to buy two, for example. But I wouldn't buy 3 because I wouldn't want a carded one.
Well, there'd be no point.
Black Series. I don't think they're out of the woods with that. I think that would seriously harm that line as well. It wouldn't be as a quicker death, but it would still be a death. Take a lot longer, but I still think it would harm it severely. I've changed my mind on this a little bit because I think there might be some good news on the horizon for TVC.
Keep my fingers crossed. I mean, I'm not too worried about the Black Series going plastic free. What I would like, however, is if they make sure they get the bloody Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary figures on the card backs with the bubbles before they decide to knock it on the head. Because I've got the Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars 40th, and my OCD will kick in big time if they change it for the Return of the Jedi. So I'm just hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, they remain with the plastic bubble for that.
I think I don't know for sure, but I've got a feeling that I've got a feeling that they might know that it would kill the line.
Because I
did a live stream about it. Chris from Bantha Skull wrote a whole article about it. We've talked about this. We haven't done a big campaign or anything to like protest against it, because there's nothing to protest against at the moment because we haven't seen anything. We're going by rumors. We're going by people that have apparently seen prototypes of, these companies have processes that they go down where they discuss things, don't they, in a room full of people, and they go, right, if we to do this, what sort of thing, and they might come up with 2 or 3 different ideas of how they could present this new packaging. I would imagine that one of the ideas might have even been get rid of the vintage collection altogether and put it in a different packaging, with so it's not on that classic Kenner card back. Maybe that was explored, I don't know, but I just think that there might, I don't feel as downbeat about it, because I think they know how damaging it would be. It would be basically suicide for the line. And I think maybe it might get a pass. I don't think the Black Series will.
Well, I was going to say
because they're not as precious as about the packaging. The packaging is not the product with the Black Series, is it? It's the figure.
That's correct.
It's the figures, isn't it? Whereas part of the vintage collection's charm is the fact
packaging,
that it looks like the Kenner figures from back in when we were kids.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I find it interesting that Hasbro haven't made any comment about it at all whatsoever, or said anything about it in those respects.
Well, I think that's a good sign.
Yeah,
because if they haven't, then they're still mulling it over. And also, you've got to remember, they can't announce something until a figure that's going to be in that new packaging, whatever it might be, is revealed. So when they did that G.I. Joe, if you notice, when this all came from the Marvel or G.I. Joe video, I can't remember what it was. They showed some figures in with the window, and then they showed one without. And then he goes at the very, without even thinking about it, he goes, oh, and by the way, this is going to be the new packaging going forward. They only revealed it like that because they had a figure to reveal at that time. Maybe Star Wars hasn't got that far ahead yet because it's 2023. Maybe there's no figures for 2023. I know some of them have got pre-order dates in 2023, but we'll get them before then. Wave 1 of 23, no figures of Wave 1 2023 have been revealed yet. And when they do, that's when you'll get the packaging. And if it's changed, they'll say it's changed. And if it hasn't, then they just won't mention it at all, will they? Because they've got nothing to respond to,
So, fingers crossed. Anyway, moving on. What was it about Bossk that you liked so much, considering he had so little screen time?
He was just the figure that I used as my baddie figure when I was a kid. He was bright. He was an alien. He's just an evil-looking dude, and like he's the one that I used to use when playing Star Wars as a kid that used to be chasing the Millennium Falcon with all the heroes in it. I was never one to like reenact the films. Like,
yeah,
I made up my own adventures and stories. But it used to mainly be Bossk was the big baddie that used to be chasing the heroes. And when I came to thinking up a name for my channel and my website and whatever, I was instantly just drawn to him for some reason. And then when I was just trying to think of names around that included him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's very catchy. And I mean, I like you, when I was a kid playing, the imagination used to run wild. I mean, I never sort of like you followed the films and stuff like that. I just did my own bits and bobs and stuff like that, and made my own storyline up and had my own head canon and stuff. So yeah, that was
that's the beauty. That was the beauty of it, wasn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I'm taking you've watched Clone Wars, the episodes of Clone Wars, because he's in that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And
he's with young Boba, isn't he?
That's it. And you must have been disappointed that he didn't return in the Book of Boba Fett.
I was a little bit, especially when he said, "Oh, we've got money to hire people." I thought, here we go. We're going to see Dengar. We're going to see Bossk.
Yeah.
Bossk was mentioned in Solo. That was great.
Was
so
he?
He's in there. Yeah. When they're around in Solo, when they're around the campfire, I think it is.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And oh God, I've forgotten her name now. The girlfriend of
yeah,
I can't remember. I can't believe I can't remember her name.
Val.
Yeah, Val. Yeah. So she says something like, "Oh, what about Bossk?" And he goes, "No, he's doing this, that, and the other, or whatever." When they're talking about like hiring people to help them, yeah.
Oh,
so he gets a mention
just for that bit.
He gets a mention, yeah. But yeah, I was expecting him to be in Book of Boba Fett. That would have been awesome, and instead they hired the moped gang, which was just like a huge kick in the teeth. But
it was such a wasted opportunity. I feel it really was. I mean, you could have had, like, say, IG-88, but then again with IG-88, would it have been copying IG-11 from the Mandalorian?
I don't think they could have gone. Yeah, I don't think it could have gone there. But they could have had Dengar and Bossk or Forlom or Zuckuss. Couldn't they? Could have had any, like, take your pick, and the crowd would have gone mental over it, wouldn't they? The internet would have been. They would have brought down the internet with it.
I'd like to say a massive wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
Right. So, what is your most treasured piece of your collection? The bit that you treasure the most?
Well, it's definitely my Millennium Falcon. I've still got the box. The box is in
what from really?
Yeah,
wow.
It's in a terrible state.
Yeah,
it's still got all the flaps and everything, but it's in a bad way.
Yeah,
it needs some tape. But because my brother gave me that, and you got to remember, like, my brother at the time would have been 10.
Yeah,
and I was like 6. So how could he afford a Millennium Falcon? And the box is huge. So when you've got this big present under the tree, you think that's your main present. It wasn't my main present in terms of value, because my brother probably bought it off his mate for a couple of quid, you know? But to me, that present that day was like my main present. It's like I couldn't believe it, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know how I've managed to keep that one thing. It wasn't because of nostalgia with my brother, because me and my brother didn't used to get on in our teens or whatever.
Yeah.
In our early teens anyway, you know, I was that little brat brother basically. So I didn't keep it for that reason. I just don't know. It was just something that I always kept. I may have even attempted to sell it a few times and just never did.
Wow.
So yeah, that is my most treasured possession. It's definitely not my most expensive thing, but that's what I always, whenever I get asked that question, that's it.
Going back to one of your previous answers about, like, with the conversation where you're saying about you sold your original Star Wars stuff. I can remember the day my parents sold. Well, they didn't sell it; they gave it away. My dad's best man's son. They gave it to him, and they said, "Do you want your Star Wars stuff? It's sitting up in the loft." And I was like 14, 15, I think at the time, and I was like, oh, "No, you might as well have it." So they went, they took it, and I was just like, didn't think anything of it. And I went round there one weekend, and I saw the state of it. The stuff was just broken, smashed figures with their arms, and I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, but
I
mate,
didn't at the time. I didn't know that it was going to be such a big thing going forward with
no,
the value. Well, I'd say value. I think more sentimental value and how things are with people collecting and stuff like that. I would love to have kept my original Star Wars toys for sure, definitely.
yeah, and whenever I look at the ones that I've bought in my cabinet, I love them,
Yeah,
but they weren't mine. I've got two or
yeah,
three that were mine, just two or three,
yeah,
and one of them was so beaten up. It's a Nim Num. I gave it to my son, and that's his Nim Num now. So I've got a
yeah,
different Nim Num in my cabinet.
yeah,
But mate, at least yours went to another kid that
yeah,
enjoyed them, and you saw how much he had played with them because he'd busted them all up. At least that
yeah,
happened. At least it didn't go to some bloke that just like knew back then the value. Do you know
yeah.
what I
Is that
mean?
who you
At
sold
least
yours
they.
to then?
I just sold mine at a car boot sale, mate. It was this, and to be honest, there was a pitch next to mine, and it was a
Yeah,
mum and his little boy. He must have been about 8, and he just kept on coming over with another pound to grab another 4 figures or another transformer,
yeah.
and he must have
Wow,
just bought all of my stock. And I was about
wow.
14, and I was loving it because I was thinking, oh, he's going to enjoy those. But I was also
Yeah,
loving it because I had by the end of that car boot sale, I had
yeah.
about £100 in my pocket, and £100 for a 13-year-old, 14-year-old
There's a
was
lot of
like,
money those days, isn't it? Yeah, yeah,
as I say, I
definitely.
could afford like my bullet wheels for my skateboard or
Wow.
whatever.
Do you have any regrets in selling that, or did you not think anything of it at the time?
I do regret it because I wish I had it, because
Yeah,
when I look at that Falcon and I look at the figures, when I pick up the figures and I think, I love this thing because I used to have it as a kid, but it's not my one. And I would love to have had my ones,
yeah,
because then you could really, feel that sort of back to your childhood. You still get it from the ones that
yeah,
you've got since, but I think the people that kept theirs are very, very lucky.
yeah. Oh, without a doubt. I was talking to a guy on one of the last episodes, episode 3, Boba Hicks, and he was saying that he's got a lot of his original Transformers and stuff like that, and he said some of them are dinked and stuff, and I was saying to him that's part of the charm of having
Yeah,
something like that on your shelf. It's being played with. It because that's what toys were in those days.
yeah.
I wouldn't have dreamed of keeping my figures in a on a card back or in a box. I'd be like ripping that open. Wouldn't give a damn about the state of the card. It was only I think when Return of the Jedi come out that we started just keeping the card backs and stuff like that. But those toys were for playing with, not for putting on your wall or putting in a display or anything like that. So yeah, all
I
good
used to
stuff.
cut the only thing I ever remember about the card backs is sending off for Dengar. I remember my
Yeah,
mum doing that for me. And on the back of the Return of the Jedi, because they're the most that I bought myself, when I was
yeah,
about 7 or 8, with my pocket money and what have you. On the back of them, you've got like collect all 77 or whatever it is,
yeah, yeah.
79.
That's it. Yeah,
On the yellow background with all the figures, I used to cut each individual figure out into a tiny little thing like that. I don't know why, but I used to do it. And then I used to like count how many C3POs I've got, or, I've
oh,
got
okay.
like, because that's my way of knowing how many figures I've had, because I've got, 13 scout troopers, little cardboard cutouts, tiny little things.
Wow.
I'm probably the only person that ever did that,
I've
but that
never
was
heard
my
that.
way. No. So so then now I think about all the card backs that I wrecked.
Yeah, yeah. God, blimey. Moving on. Do you have a grail piece that you haven't got and you want?
Yeah, there's probably a few, isn't there? But I've got to admit, the last, I've been buying things and then selling them on because the value of things has gone like this since the pandemic started, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So there's things that I bought maybe 4 or 5 years ago where I'm like, well, now I want this. But to afford this, I've got to sell this, you know? And that's the way I've done it with my collection. It's hard to let something go, but then it doesn't matter because you're getting this.
Yeah.
So I did recently acquire a toxic limbs Bossk, which is just, you don't even want to know how expensive it is. Ridiculous amount of money for a loose figure. And that was always
eBay?
No, it's off for one of the Facebook groups.
Oh, okay.
That was always my thing that I just thought I'd never own. And then it came up, and my mate John, the action figure grader, who has a lot to answer for, he just said, look, these rarely come up. It's now or never. It is now or never. And I was like, he's right. It's now or never. And what happened was someone claimed it, but then they backed out and didn't pay, or they didn't agree to the terms or whatever.
Okay.
So I'd already missed it once. So I said, I'm not missing it again. And I claimed it. And it actually arrived today.
Oh, awesome. That's all right.
I'm going to save it for another video.
No,
but that I had to, when I knew I had to pay that, because I arranged with the guy, because he's in Spain, because it's a Spanish figure.
Okay.
He was in the Canary Islands, and he said, I'm not going to be back home on the mainland until July. I said, well, I'll pay you in end of June, July then. So for the last month, I've been selling stuff to try and get the money up to afford this one thing. So that was my grail, and I've got it now. Of course, you just move on to the next thing then, don't you? You think, right, okay.
That's it. Yeah.
So now I'm after like as many of the Bossk mocks that I can get, with all the different offer stickers and all that kind of stuff.
Awesome. Because the grail piece I have I would like would be the vintage A-wing.
The droids box.
For the droids box, yeah.
Yeah.
There was one up at Echo Live last year, and I think it was it £3,000 or something like that? It was in one of the acrylic cases.
Yeah.
It was quite expensive. I mean that, yeah. So, but you saying yourself that you've sold a lot of your Lego, haven't you?
Yeah. I had a lot of Lego. I was fortunate to know someone that worked for Lego, and they often allowed me to order stuff through them, and they get a 50% discount if you work at Lego. So, so a lot of the Lego I acquired over the years was through that. And but then when you it takes up a lot of space, Lego, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So it's like sitting in the loft. What am I doing? Whenever something's in the loft, do you care about it that much?
Yeah.
If it's just packed away. So I thought, I think it's time to move some of these on because I was looking at the prices of some of them. I was thinking, oh my God, wow, that is crazy.
So weren't they made? Were they in the boxes still? They hadn't been opened? Or...
I bought them, made them, took photos of them, enjoyed the build experience.
Yeah.
And then left them sort of on display for a month, and then broke them down, put them back in their bags, put them in their mint boxes, and then put them in the loft because I just didn't have the space,
Yeah.
So I got to that point where I was like, right, there's certain things that I want in my vintage collection, going back, getting some of the older figures. There's some really expensive ones, as in the line.
Yeah.
And also the vintage mocks. To get those, I had to sell some of the Lego, which was a shame, but creates a bit more space. So
that's the problem. Space is I think that's my worst enemy as well at the moment. That's why I've got it spread out over 3 rooms, which my wife loves. Put it all in the bedroom, the front room. I mean, I've got a row of TIE fighters in front of the TV, so got the sail barge behind the sofa. It's a Lego, and it does get to a point where you think, I've got to stop. Because I mean, I've got loads in storage still. I've got stuff under the bed. I've got stuff in cupboards that are in boxes that haven't been opened. I mean, I moved on my Action Force, SAS, and Z Force slot. I'll move that on So
Yeah, because I
I
was
think,
thinking about having that SAS stuff off of you.
yeah,
I was very, very
yeah.
tempted, but I just couldn't because I
Well,
thought if I buy that, where am I going to put it until,
yeah,
once I get space, I'd love to display that. That is an awesome, the Action Force,
yeah. Don't, because
original
you're making
Action
me regretting
Force.
selling it now. But
Sorry, mate.
that's okay. But yeah, no. But I think at the time you were buying, you just got something of you got some figures, didn't you, from an auction?
Yeah,
I think
I
at
have
that
got,
time you,
I've got a few bits and pieces like that. Yeah, but it's not, as I
yeah.
say,
I
it's not
think
worth, it's not anything to talk about because it's not. I can't call it a collection.
no. Because because when I asked you about the SLA stuff, you said that you got money tied up in an auction or something because you wanted some Star
Yeah.
Wars
Oh,
figures. Yeah,
yes. There. Oh, sorry. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, the the auction house. I can't remember what it's called now, but
Not is it Victus?
Vectis. Yeah,
Vectus, that's it.
I
Yeah,
bought some. Yeah, I bought some stuff off
yeah,
Vectis. Yeah,
yeah.
I got
No,
one of my
that's
Bossk. I got my Palatoy Bossk from Vectis.
oh, okay.
And a lot of people weren't bidding on it because they thought it might be a Toy Tony, but it isn't. It's a legit one. So I
Oh,
really
wow.
scored on that one. Yeah.
Yeah,
But it's like,
awesome.
as I say, it's like to upscale your collection to the things you really want.
Yeah,
You do have to sell some of the stuff, I think. Otherwise, you've got to open up a blimmin' museum, haven't you?
yeah,
Because we
yeah.
haven't got
No, you're right. Yeah.
we haven't got unlimited space here, have we? You know.
No, that's the problem. That's the problem. And I mean, at the moment, I can't think of anything I'd want to sell. I think I'd cry. So anyway, we'll.
Yeah,
So
well,
moving on.
that's the problem.
Last couple of questions. What gives you the toy collecting buzz? And you're the first person I've asked this question to.
This is quite funny actually because I sometimes think that the buzz is short lived. Like you chase something, you buy it, and then once you've got it, it's not as good as you thought it's gonna be.
Oh no.
But and then because it's almost like an addiction thing, you move on to the next. Like what? It's always what is the
Yeah.
next thing, and that's
Yeah.
crazy, isn't it? I don't know. I think just being in the community gives me the buzz. Like,
Yeah.
sort of talking to people like at the time of like, I'm chasing this, and they help you out finding it. Oh, this guy's selling it, Oh, okay, I'll go and talk to him then. And like that just whole buzz of like being in that community of people, Like Only One
Yeah.
Kenobi messages me all the time. Oh, what do you think of this? And I'm like, it's that whole sort of talking between you that is the best thing about it, I think. Like,
Yeah.
and then once they get the item, then great, or if I get an item, brilliant. But it is kind of like, what's next?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's like I couldn't wait back in the day when, before the internet, run down to the older comic store and have a look in the magazines to see what's coming out that following month and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I mean,
with you with the buzz, definitely.
in terms of the modern stuff, the buzz is definitely like, what is next? And a great example is this Vader that's just come out. Like, what an amazing figure that is! Like, it's so good. And if you think about yourself when you were a kid,
Yeah.
and if you had that Vader, the Vader, the Obi-Wan Vader that they've just brought out, if you had that as a 7-year-old, your mind would have been blown,
Yeah. No, it's got to say it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
So it's things
Right.
like that. It's like when they improve things, and you just think, wow,
Yeah.
this is getting so good now. Like some of the head sculpts are just crazy good.
But then it makes you wonder why they haven't renewed figures like Luke and Leia and Han,
Yeah,
and the C3PO. I mean, the vintage collection C3PO, is it VCO4? Horrendous, absolutely
yeah.
horrendous. Like you pointed out, he's a lot smaller. I actually went on your guys' advice and got the C3PO from what line is it?
With the Ewok chair.
Yeah, I got him, and
Yes.
he's far better, a lot better.
Yeah.
It just makes me wonder why they've not done those figures.
The only thing I can think of is because there will be an element of the collecting community that will go, I've already got 6 Lukes. Stop making figures I've already got. You know, I want a Black Chrysanthemum. I want this. I want new characters, and there is an argument for that. You know,
No, I get that, but I
do
would
they
want something
keep
that
going
with
back
both.
on the older figures, making them better and better and better each time when we've had 15,000 Darth Vaders already? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but if they make a definitive, then they won't need to go
Yeah.
back and do it. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, no
Yeah.
doubt, if Vader's in Ahsoka, in the Ahsoka series, or Andor, he's going to be on an Andor card, or he's going to be on an Ahsoka card. So they don't have to keep putting every figure on a separate card. Just make a definitive one when the time's right, and say, right, that's it, no more Vaders. Or I don't know. I mean, I know people like collecting cards. I mean, I think Obi-Wan would love that, wouldn't he? Only one rather. He'd love all those cards with Andor and.
Yeah, and the problem is that new Darth Vader is definitive for the Vader in Obi-Wan. It's not definitive for the Return of the Jedi. His armor's different. You can get really super nerdy and super geeky about it. You know, if they never brought out another Vader, I'll be quite happy with that Darth Vader because I think he's cool. He's not accurate to Empire Strikes Back, but I don't care. He's an amazing Darth Vader. But some people do care and they want, you know. But you're right.
No,
Luke, Han, Ben Kenobi, and Leia desperately need doing, in my opinion.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I agree with you on that one,
but there's other people that will say, I'm happy with the VOTC Leia. She's fine. Give me Ned B. or the prison gang from the Mando or something, you know? There's always
the biker gang.
I don't think anybody wants them.
No, good point.
That was a big pass, yeah.
Right, last question then, Tim. What does your collection mean to you?
It means a lot. I mean, I think people get carried away with, you know, there is more important things going on in the world, like really important things. But to me, it's my hobby. It's my escape from all of that stuff. So it means a lot. I love collecting it. It's the more of it is the community, though. I love the community. I love the friends I've made. Friends from, you know, and the internet and technology has allowed me to communicate with people on a daily basis every day that live thousands of miles away across the oceans and whatever. And that is amazing. That's truly amazing to be able to do that and talk about stuff that everyone's got the same level of passion for. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're able to find like-minded people that are into the same things you are. But yeah, it means a lot to me. I don't know what else to say really. It's like, as I say, it's like in the grand scheme of things, it's not that important really. But to me it is, like, you know, it's a big part of my life.
No, definitely. I mean, you know, things aren't great in the world at the moment, 100%. And I think everybody needs that escapism, definitely. I mean, I come in here and sit and just look at the stuff that I've got around me, and I just think, wow, you know, looking at the vintage Star Wars, that brings me back to when I was a kid. Great memories there, a lot better than what's going on right now in the world. I look at some of the new stuff and think, wow, these figures are fantastic. You know, look at what they've done, how they've advanced in like figure making and stuff like that. Again, that takes my mind away from all the rubbish that's going on in the world at the moment. So again, like you, I get to meet people like yourself. I get to meet other like-minded people who have a passion for the toy collecting, like not just Star Wars, but different lines and stuff like that. And that's why I love doing this and chatting to people like yourself, because everybody's got a different story of how they started collecting, what they liked as a kid, what they can remember as a kid. And and for me, this is a hobby, this is a passion, this is fun, and it certainly does take my mind off of things when the world is rubbish, definitely. So I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Definitely,
it's great.
Well, that's about an hour, so we're gonna call that a wrap there. So Tim, thank you so much for being part of this. It's been absolutely fantastic chatting to you. really interesting, getting someone else's perspective and story on how they started collecting. And yeah, brilliant. So thank you guys for watching, and we shall see you in the next video. Thank you guys.
Cheers, mate.